So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here with me. My name is Aida, and today I'll be talking about the introduction of the policy on micro-credentials here in Kazakhstan at NEU as well. So before I start, let me introduce, I think it's not working. Just work. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Before we start, first of all, let me introduce the unit I come from. I work here at Nazarbayev University at the Center for Innovation in Learning and Teaching, Office of the Provost. You can see here my team with whom I work. Our unit is a relatively new unit. We were established just September last year, and we're a very small but very productive team. You can see here the General Director, Elaine Sharplin, who deals with a lot of troubles and issues and interesting things, but most of all, she's a responsible person for policy making. And as you know, the recent work of hers is the NEU response and generative AI. I think if you work at NEU, you might know this policy document. Then you can see here Gulnaz Saylubayeva. She's my colleague, and she's the Innovative Learning Officer. She deals with professional development for faculty in terms of learning and teaching with EdTech tools. You can see here Aida Nuranova. She works in the e-learning studio. She's the multimedia manager, and if any faculty needs some kind of educational content, or if they want to record podcast, she is the responsible person. She's very creative. And you can see me, Aida, and I'm a professional learning and development expert. I work with as well, NEU faculty. We organize various professional learning sessions, and the recent project of mine is the postdoc forum. So once a month, we convene at our center with postdocs, and we cover very important essential learning and teaching topics, because as you know, here at the research intense university, sometimes teaching and learning might be overlooked. And that's why we want to build their confidence in terms of solid, good, high-level teaching. So now let's move on. Before I start, I'd just like to talk about the background on Kazakhstan, because we have international colleagues here, and I think it will be important to talk about the background on Kazakhstan. So over the 30 years of independence, our population has been gradually growing, and the interesting date is November the 14th, 2024. It's when our population reached the milestone of 20 million people. And what's important is that along with the development of our population, our economy is growing as well. And it hit the interesting record of investing about 5.4% of government's GDP in education, which is about 4.5 trillion tenge. And out of this sum, about 387 billion tenge is spent on higher education. Another important process is the process of internationalization and globalization. So we signed the Bologna process. We are the part of the European higher education area. We introduced ECTS. And of course, we established the important agency, which is the International Quality Assurance Agency. And we introduced the National Qualifications Framework as well. I cannot forget to mention the establishment of Nazarbayev University in 2010, which was the strategic decision of our government to internationalize the higher education. And one of the recent milestones in our development was the Times High rating, and we were in the top 30% of the world research universities, which is, I think, an incredible achievement for such a young and startup university. And I think the recent rating by Times Higher, I just want to add to this slide, is that we became, I think, #1 in Kazakhstan, if I'm not mistaken, and we're in the top 10% of the Central Asian universities. Now, so overall, the development of higher education in Kazakhstan has faced the process of internationalization, globalization, and everything is dealt with strategic thinking. However, sometimes there are some unexpected situations such as COVID-19. So on March the 16th, 2020, all the universities of Kazakhstan had to move from offline to online learning and teaching, which was an incredible issue for our country. If you take a look at the slide, you can see here that only 79% of Kazakhstani higher education institutions had internet access. I'm not talking about tools, I'm not talking about educational platforms, I'm just talking about the basic foundation access to the internet. And many lacked the robust IT support, which was also the problem of quality. If we take a look at the rural colleges and technical vocational institutions, some of the rural colleges had to continue working offline, and they had to, it threatened their health, it threatened their lives, but since they didn't have any type of internet connection or infrastructure, they had to continue working offline. There's an interesting study by CEIA, which stands for Socio-Economic Impact Assessment. This study was funded by UNDP in Kazakhstan and UNICEF. It surveyed about 1,000 students, 44 administrative heads, which includes university rectors, and 133 faculty members. So only 42% were aware of online teaching resources. So at the point of the COVID-19. And students said that 31% perceived a decrease in education quality due to limited resources and teacher feedback. So if we take a look at these numbers, we could say that there was a huge limitation. And this limitation highlighted the problem of poor technical infrastructure and teacher training. Overall, I can say that here are the lessons learned from this situation. First of all, there was an acute need for improved digital infrastructure. Moreover, it was about faculty training. And last one, equitable access to digital learning tools. During the pandemic, I can remember that I was a student of master's degree here at Graduate School of Education. And I remember those SMS on my telephone that everybody has to be at home, you have to study at home. And I remember when the Ministry of Higher Education and Science just got the access for all students to do the Coursera courses. And nowadays, more than 20,000 faculty members and students from 20 universities, 20 public universities here in Kazakhstan have undergone online training. And that was an interesting experiment because in 2029, our Ministry of Education, of Higher Education and Science introduced the concept of lifelong learning. One of the most important thing is that this concept encompasses formal, non-formal, and informal types of education. So I just want to stop here and ask you, what do you think what's the difference between these three types of education? Any ideas? Yeah.
I'm going to guess.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to guess formal is what you have at school, university, so on. Now, non-formal and informal, I'm not sure about, but I'm going to guess that one of them is something like MOOCs or like self-access material, and the other would be like your family teaching you or your friend teaching you.
Exactly. So that was a relatively stupid question because you see the answer in the screen.
I can't see the answer.
So formal education stands for the school, college, university framework. So that's the typical traditional cycle. Informal is self-paced training not validated with certificates. Also, even when a professor and his student or her students were having a coffee break together talking, it's also considered as informal education because he or she might be a mentor. And in terms of formal education, it covers vocational training, professional retraining, seminars, lectures, and online courses. So As you can see, the introduction of MOOCs like Coursera led the foundation of the development of such a concept of lifelong learning. I just want to add here that the introduction of the concept of lifelong learning also introduced the so-called silver universities. What do you think this might mean, silver universities? I don't have this on slide, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, silver universities.
Is it for all the participants, like seniors, maybe?
Yeah, so right, you are bingo. So silver universities are the universities based on local public universities where adult population or even retired, they might have some kind of informal training. They can do courses in whatever they want. And it's also covered in the concept of lifelong learning. It was also the implication of the COVID-19. So our mindset is changing because back in the Soviet Union, I think my mom told also as well that by 30 you need to do a degree, you need to start a family and so on. But right now our population is changing their minds, and you can still have education. You can still do some courses even if you are of a retirement age as well. So another important milestone is that in the concept of lifelong learning 2021, there was the introduction of the new terms such as micro qualifications, nano degrees, and nano training. It is getting necessary professional skills in a short period of time. So during the COVID-19 and post-COVID era, it's been mentioned that a lot of people just lost their jobs due to the problems with social distancing. Not everybody was working with computers. Some of them were just workmen. And by introducing the concept of lifelong learning, it is estimated that by 2025, the curve of unemployment, which is about 130K, would be flattened due to the micro learning, nano degrees. However, it's still early to estimate the effect because only 17% of our population, of our adult population, which is about from 16 to 65, have undergone any non-formal training, which is 3 times fewer than in other countries on average. Now, I just want to mention the definition of micro-credentials. According to the European Union, micro-credentials is the record of learning outcomes that the learner has acquired following a small volume of learning. These learning outcomes will have been assessed against transparent and clearly defined criteria. I understand that this definition is a bit vague, but I just want to cover that micro-credentials include stackable degrees, the opportunity to transfer credits from other universities without any troubles. And yes, fortunately, in Kazakhstan we have ECTS, it's not a problem. And the recognition of prior learning, for example, your previous degrees, your bachelor's, your master's. And of course, considering the newness of this concept, Nazarbayev University last year in October, we introduced our policy of micro-credentials. We, together with Associate Provost of Graduate Studies, Mr. Luis Rojas Solorzano, he just introduced this policy. It's the fruit of his work. They introduced the policy. I'm not sure about the current progress, but I think that it's approved, right? It's approved. And there's academic policies and procedures, handbook template for micro-credentials, and a quality assurance system. Now, if you look at the next slide, I just did a little bit of a document analysis. You can see here all the necessary laws and documents that lay the legal foundation of the introduction of micro-credentials here. And if you take a look at the first document, which is the central one, is the law of the Republic of Kazakhstan on education. And you can see here the concept of lifelong learning, decree of national qualifications, law on professional qualifications, and so forth. What's important here is that the demand of the workforce of the market is changing, So as I understood, it's really important to be not an I-shaped person, but as a T-shaped person, which stands for being able to do a lot of different things. So you don't only centralize your professional life around one subject area. So you should understand some entrepreneurial qualifications you need to understand about them. You need to know how people, for example, learn. So a lot of different skills. And I think that's the process that micro-credentials might help with. So you can do a degree in a nano degree, for example, in marketing, and then you can do a small nano degree in teaching. And then by the end, when all your degrees are stackable, you're an expert. A little bit of this and a little bit of that, and more flexible. So despite the successful implementation, there is still knowledge gaps. We don't know, it's a very new policy. First of all, is the guiding policies and documents. So in Kazakhstan, we still don't have the exact, how to say, library maybe of documents that are guiding us through, which is also not a bad thing because it's a malleable process. So we can establish our own documents, we can still pave the way. Another one is the quality assurance. So since micro degrees or stackable degrees or nano degrees will issue online certificates, we need to check whether these degrees or digital badges are of high quality. One of the things is that introduced in China is the development of blockchain technology. Another one is cost and accessibility. So not everybody might afford to do a micro-credential or stackable degree. And I just want to mention here is that it might cost universities a lot of money because you need to reshape the traditional courses. You need to understand who and how might teach micro-credentials. So it's one of the issues here. And of course, it's the infrastructure, whether universities will have enough computers, enough educational platforms, enough people who teach faculty how to teach in this micro-learning cycles. I just want to mention here as well the so-called Matthew effect. So if you know from maybe sociology, Matthew effect, it's like when poor gets poor and rich gets richer. So maybe in the academic Matthew effect, some people might benefit more, and it might also develop some kind of a gap, social gap. So it's like the increased disparity in achievement, which occurs when more knowledgeable students become even more competent and competitive, while underrepresented groups fall behind. I would like to end my presentation with some remaining questions. First of all, what would be the long-term outcomes of the implementation of micro-credentials in Kazakhstan in higher education? We still don't know. Will micro-credentials be an affordable lifelong learning option, and will they enable more equitable access to continuing education? And last one, how will micro-credentials be impacted by the emergence of artificial intelligence? We still don't know. So it's all for now. These are the references if you like me to check them. Yeah, that's all for now.
Thank you very much, Aida. We have 10 minutes for questions now, so please
Yeah,
feel free.